Okay, so you can already point out emails which look really good, but if you don't understand the principles which made them look so good, then you can't replicate it when you make your own emails. So I've just gone ahead and broken down the 11 principles with examples, and then you're able to go ahead and create high converting emails for yourself. So I'll get my fat head out of the way. Number one, balance. So we've got this little circle here which needed to be there, but since everything else is really center aligned, it just looked a bit off at first glance. And we fixed that. We restored the balance by just adding this circle here. It's just a neutral color from the photo, so it doesn't detract from the important information, but it restores that balance. Another example here, they've made the same decision where they've got a lot of visual elements going on this left side. So if this limited supply was also here, it'd make it look a bit messy and it would kind of blend in, and everything would be over the left side of the screen there, so it'd be a bit off. Next, emphasis. What is it that stood out about this email? It's the button, right? That's the only time they've used this yellow color, and that's to emphasize the button. It stands out against all of this blue and white, and it's the most important part of the email, really, so that's why they've emphasized it. Repetition. This is basically to help your reader not get lost and to have things be consistent. So we've got this pink strip with the new product, and that's quite a standout feature of their packaging. They've never used like a big bright color like this. So we've used it again for the discount and again at the bottom for the discount. It's not like in this email you would get lost, so it's not like a return here if you get lost at the carnival kind of thing. We're not using it that way here. It's more to basically show them, okay, it's time to click the button, it's time to click the button again. This is the same opportunity, so we're making them the same color. If this one was green and this one was yellow, they would think that it's a different offer, or they go to different places, and it would just be something new that they'd have to work out, and you want to take out all the guesswork you can. They know what's coming. If they've not clicked from this first button, they'll read this copy, and then they see the color again, they know what this is, it's time to click the button. Rhythm. So there's a lot of ways you can use rhythm. Monica fucking Lewinsky. You read it with so much emphasis because of all of this space here. It creates rhythm. You read it like you would say it to emphasize it. They didn't need to make fucking massive and distasteful. They just emphasized it with rhythm. We've done this for one of our brands, Renew, Refocus, Restart. You could have got rid of all of this space and you'd read it how I'm saying it now, very fast, and it wouldn't feel the same as if we had this rhythm here. So that's rhythm. Pattern. So by the way, just a lot of these principles, we've used them in one way. There are a lot of ways to use all of these principles, so just, yeah, bear that in mind. This email is super rich and has a lot of bright colors already, and that's actually a problem for the CTA and this subhead here, because obviously, again, this is something we need to emphasize, but we can't use another color to emphasize it like that previous email, because we've already got a lot of bright colors here and a lot going on to grab your attention. So we did it with pattern. It's subtle, but it adds to the tropical kind of feel of the email, and it signifies, this is an important part. A little tangent, the reason we didn't add pattern to this section is because there are different types of buyers, and an analytical type would want to read every single electrolyte in this supplement, but not everyone is like that, so that's why we haven't emphasized it the same. We don't want to detract from the actual main important part. So again, this is the product and we've emphasized it with pattern. White space. So the reason this is all squished together now is because I ran through this before recording. You would have all of this white space, and it's kind of a funny way to think of it, but I almost think of it as like a treat for the reader. You know, everyone is trying to cram as much information as they can into your reader's mind, and it's kind of just being nice to give them this space, and it also lets them focus on just one thing at a time. And the example I gave why I squidged it up, if we had it like this, we got rid of that white space. Trying to read this, but then this catches their eye, and there's too much to focus on at one time. You know, everyone's dealing with overwhelm. Give them that space, and then they can actually just take in the important information that you have for them. I heard a good analogy recently. It's, you know how there's line breaks between text. There'll be like a whole space between text, like we're doing here. The reason for that is almost like monkey bars I've heard someone say recently. They're easy to swing between when they're spaced out like that. If you had them all right next to each other, it'd be quite hard. There's more decisions to make, and it'd be too much. They're more likely to just leave your email. You know, when you open an email from someone that doesn't use line spaces or doesn't care about paragraphs, and it's just like a block of text, it's super overwhelming. That's the same thing. It's much more pleasant and inviting if you have white space. Movement. So this is a buy now, pay later email of ours. That's why, by the way, some of the things are blurred out because they're for, you know, our partner brands. So this information isn't inherently exciting. So we've added these photos, but if these photos were all on one side, it wouldn't be nearly as exciting as if I say exciting. They're not going to be like, oh yes, I'm moving from left to right with my eyes. It just makes it a little bit more engaging, and it's super useful for times when it might not be the most exciting information, but it's necessary. So yeah, you can see the movement here. They're not just going down like they are with this email, they're going left to right too. Another way, I don't have an example for this, I'll see one later on and show you, but another way you can do it, for example here, the scoop. Obviously this looks interesting, but it's not just because it looks cool that that's there. That's also movement. This, you're following down into the email, and you're kind of putting more commitment into the email. Like the further you can get someone down your messaging, the more likely they are to convert. And so if this was going sideways, if you had a lot of things breaking sideways, you would almost be stopped at those points, and there'd be lots of roadblocks. But we have this kind of drawing you into the email, and that's, again, just movement. But that's not the point. This is variety. So back on track, Seb. Variety here. It's a super rich email. You can see there's a lot going on. There's a lot of different elements and a lot of different little pieces, and it's a very exciting and rich email is the way to describe it. And this can become very just chaotic if you don't do it right. So I would like to say, make sure you have a lot of variety in your emails, but keep them tied in. You can't have too much going on. If they had 7 different colors and 4 different types of buttons, it would be chaos. So they've made a super rich email with a lot going on. There's a lot of variety, but you'll notice a lot of the same elements. So on a macro level, you've got blue, yellow, and then you've got this pattern here, this pattern here. These are to signify like, okay, this is a new section, and they've used variety again by not having a straight line like the last one, because that, you know, could become boring once they'd seen it. You could say it was repetition, but they've added variety by moving it and actually engaging it, having it interact with the subhead here. Variety. Unity. So there's a lot going on in this section, but we've kept it harmonious and actually visually appealing to look at by putting it within this perimeter, which is normal, let's say. Like if this piece here was stuck out like that, it would ruin the feeling of the email. It'd be quite jarring, and then you might find these elements and all of these sections overwhelming. But if it makes sense on like a macro level to look at, like, okay, this is the information, this is the section, that's how you can add unity. Another way you can do it, this email looks super unified. You could look at any one of these sections on their own and you'd be able to say it's from the same brand because they've unified the sections with the color. Obviously, they've not just got one block of green with one color text. They've used different sections. So they've got this highlight green for this visual here, then the highlight green in the little graphics there, and that same blue and the same subhead color. So that's another way to add unity. Kind of similar to variety there. If you obviously have like 1,000 little pieces going on, then that unity is not going to be there and it's going to be quite chaotic and probably just too much for the reader. They might get a bit lost and disengaged because, you know, people are checking their emails as they're traveling, as they're walking down the road, or they're on the tube, they're going home, maybe they've got Netflix open in the background and they've got their phone open because you've emailed them and you're competing, you know, you're not in a vacuum, so you can't expect people to be like, okay, organic acacia fiber, okay, they're not going to work to read the email, so it needs to be visually appealing and not chaotic. Proportions. So you can tell which parts of this email are the most important. There's additional information, but the subheads and these parts are the most important. So you can use proportions to basically highlight the necessary information. And this is again just for the reader to know, like, if they are almost at their stop. Okay, our bags are packed, Keynote Live. They can click the button to open the website where they'll book, and then they can go about with their day. They can actually book it later. But if these were all the same proportions and it's like, okay, our bags are packed, we're only a week away, tunes, schedule, entertaining you, it would be too much. So yeah, use proportions, highlight the most important parts. Another way you can do it, we've got day 1 and day 2 speakers here, and these are obviously the same size buttons, and you would just do that because it just, you know, you just would, it's the right thing to do. But if this button was twice the size of the day 1 button, you would just assume that day 2 had more going on, it was the finale, and you'd have more people click day 2. So if they are equal, and how the people here are the same size as the logos, that's to show they're equally important. So that's proportions. Hierarchy. So hierarchy isn't just above and below. Obviously, this stuff is above, and that's one way of using hierarchy. This piece of context here, for your context, this is a sunset email. So as someone stops engaging with you, you'd send them this to re-engage them, or in this case, find out, you know, what kind of position they're in. So this is hierarchy where this has to come first, and you're going to go from top to bottom. But you can also do hierarchy with importance through color. So do you find our emails appealing? This, out of all of the colors, this is the most important, it's the most vibrant, and it's the same font. Excuse me, it is the same font, but the color is different, and you've got this additional text. But just like proportions, yes, no, maybe. That's all you need to read. So that's the important part. Yes, no, maybe. Those are important, just as important as the title. So they're saving you having to read all of this. If it was all the same color, it'd be like, oh, is this a really specific answer? The hierarchy is it a yes, no, or maybe? Yeah, another example. This is the same thing. So, this looks terrible. I've blown it up. But the point is, you've got all of this text which you can read and it adds additional information. But the important part is pros to casual gym users. That's who the sauna and cold plunge can be recovery methods. Oh, sauna and cold plunge, and they might go and check it out. Obviously, you can read the rest. Everyone has their own unique fitness goals, whatever the goals may be, help you reach goals faster. But it's not as important as this is who it's for, this is what's going to help you. So, yeah, that was 11. That's it. We'll keep it short and sweet. I just thought quickly and simply running through and just giving you like a very basic explanation of each of the principles would be helpful. I don't need to waffle on anymore. I hope this has been helpful. If you want more examples and templates and things like that, shoot me a message and I'll be more than happy to help out. And yeah, I hope that helps. Have a good one.